Size of the flakes, you might want to just increase the size of the flakes a little bit, just to make them a little bit just heavier, have a little bit more presence. Variation percentage in terms of size is good because then we get that variance of larger and smaller snowflakes, so it might just increase that a little bit as well. Scene depth, so as in you're looking at it, how are they scattering those large to small snowflakes, and how does it appear as though it is actually part of an environment that goes on and on sort of thing. Speed, of course, the speed of the snowflakes. We can vary up the speed by putting in a variable for the percentage of that speed, so that some snowflakes are falling a little faster, some are falling a little bit slower. We can control the wind, so I would increase the wind. You can go any the direction that you want. We'll take a look at what that does, but essentially you're just changing the direction by which the snowflakes are going to be traveling, yeah?
So just a question, how did you get the snow again?
The CC snowfall?
Yeah.
Yep, just once you have your solid, just go into effect, go down to simulation, and then it's in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have variation in the percentage of the wind, the speed of that, and then we have wriggle. We looked at wriggle just quickly last week. It's just an expression essentially that allows variation. It'll just create a more variegated effect with the various things that we've chosen. So it affects these things here, the amount, the variation in percentage of the amount, frequency, and that sort of thing. We'll leave that as is. Color, we'll just go back in. I'm going to make it again that sort of light blue. Not that snow is light blue, but because everything else in our scene is blue, we sort of want to give it some of that quality as well. Opacity, if you want a little bit more heavy snow or heavy in appearance, take it from the default of 50 and just bring it up a little bit. It just becomes a little bit more dense in terms of snowflakes. Transfer mode, we'll just leave as is. There's extras, we're not even going to get into the extras, but there's offsets. So we can offset it from its destination point. We can have ground effects where it's striking an object and that's influencing it. But let's just work with these properties. And what we'll do is we'll turn composite with original off so we can see our snowflakes. So a nice sort of dropping of snow. We're not traveling too fast in this car. Okay, now, obviously it's problematic. This person that's controlling the moonroof has opened it up during the snowfall. Now we have snow in our car. We don't want that. So that's just a layer-based thing. We're in the top layer, so if we take our snow and drag it to the bottom layer in our layer stack in our timeline, now it gets pushed in behind there, okay? Now you don't see it very well, and that's because we gotta get our arm in there first before we start sizing things. But if you want to just turn that off, there's our snow to our seats. And there's that depth. You can sort of, it looks like it just goes on and on. It recedes on until it just becomes impossible to see. So nice little effect through our window. Okay, so we'll close. Turn that back on. There we go. And we'll go back to project. So back to project on the top left-hand corner, open that up. So we're gonna bring in a new file, which you don't currently have. So if you can go back to FOL and grab this green screen ARM Reach MOV. If you're on a PC, don't be concerned with the fact that it's a QuickTime movie. Once you're in After Effects can handle the MOV, the QuickTime movie, even if you don't have QuickTime Player on your PC, QuickTime will play it for you. So that's okay. And all we're going to do is, once you have that downloaded, take that file, just drag it in. To our project. There it is in there. So what we'll do is, again, we need to isolate. Yeah.
Sorry to ask again. So what kind of solid did you use for the snow?
It's just, it was sort of a green, so I just sort of like a green color, greeny blue color, but really light, so I just went layer, new, solid, and then just made it this. You can always go back and change your solid values if you want to, but I just wanted something that was in keeping with this color scheme of what we're doing in the car.
Oh, okay, thank you. I accidentally did the wrong thing.
No, that's okay. And if you need to change it, so if I wanted to change, so here's my solid here. If I want to change that, if I need it a little darker, I need a little lighter, I want a little bit more green or blue, whatever the case may be. It's a layer. We created it through layer new. So all you need to do to make those changes, go to layer, and just below new, go to solid settings. And then you can make it anything that you want at that point, right? So you can change that based on what you need, okay? So even if it's not the right color, you can always go ahead and change that solid. Okay, so we have our green screen. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna double click on that green screen to open up that movie in its own window, and we can play it. So here it is playing. Okay, if you've never worked with green screen before, really, really cool, I'd encourage you to do it. We have a green screen here, and it's quite tall. I think it's more or less the height of this room, and it's fairly wide, at least as wide as that one window. So if you're interested in doing some green screen work, some stuff that you might want to incorporate as part of your FIP or another project, just let me know and I can get that screen to you. As long as it stays here in the school while you're using it, you're free to sort of roam around and use it, and it can be really cool. I like working with green screen. Now, having said that, this green screen that you're looking at, I think I was just a little overzealous to get going on it, that I made some bad choices, all right? Green screen. So this is one, I filmed this outside. I did it for the purposes of this, so I just really wanted to get an arm moving. That was all I was really concerned with, but I didn't consider enough elements that I should have, one of which was, it was shot outside on a dull day, which is perfect atmospheric condition for shooting footage and taking photos. Great, nice dull day, but there's still enough brightness that you get some great quality imagery. So that was fine, but it also happened to be a windy day, all right? So what you're seeing is buckling as a result of wind that's getting in under the green screen. Now, as you can see, I've got some masking tape there. Again, another poor choice. I should have used painter's tape, which is green, and it would have worked really, really well. But I just was in a hurry, I guess, and I thought, I got masking tape, I'll just masking. It's not gonna be in the shot, so I don't have to worry about it. It's in the shot. So that's something we have to fix. I should have put masking tape all the way around. I was probably being thrifty and thought, oh, just as long as it's against the wall, I won't worry about it. So I'm paying for that later. So wind is getting in under at the side there and top all around, and it's buckling it. And that's why when she touches it, you can see all that distortion. You can just see it anyway. You don't want that. Green screen value, the green screen is chosen specifically so that it's as flat as it possibly can be. And as long as it's flat as it possibly can be, you can do a lot of really cool stuff with it. So we're gonna wrestle a little bit with this because of those oversights on my part. Now, the green screen that we're looking at is actually just sheets of dollar store paper. Best green screen material you can get. It's fantastic. It just has the right value of green that works really, really well for keying, okay? The keying process, which we're gonna do today. So it's not an expensive thing. I have a sheet that you're certainly welcome to use if you want to do it, but you could just as easily go over to the dollar store and get yourself a couple really cheap sheets of this paper, and it's this acid green, and it works really well. Put it on a table, and you could green screen the table, and you can tape up a computer, and that could be a green screen. Like, you can do all sorts of you can wrap your hand in green, and your hand disappears now, and you can replace it with something. Like, you can do a lot of really, really cool effects with green screen. So, and then I did have to sort of instruct, okay, I need you to reach your arm out, very deliberately push against the screen, go down, and then pull off. And it's done really well. Follow those instructions beautifully. What I should have communicated, or what I actually should have, in green marker, I should have put a line of the actual distance I needed her to cover. Because as you'll notice when we take it into our video, her finger goes too long and it doesn't look great. It should only pass for the area of the screen that she would actually be interacting with. So I did a poor job with that as well. And I think I probably instructed her to wear this outfit because it's gray, which is neutral, doesn't have any value, it doesn't have any color value, which is great. But it's gray with a whole lot of value. As you can see, it's variegated. There's all sorts of different values of gray. That's going to make our life a lot more difficult too. So I did some problems. I didn't do some things very well with this, and if I were to reshoot this, I would fix all of those, and it would be a much tighter green screen and a much easier process. But I have always left it in this way. I've always used this video because sometimes we get some bad source material. We don't always have control over the source material, and we just have to work with what we get. So we've got to fix these things, and that's just a real life scenario that we also are going to work with today. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is let's key this out. Let's get rid of the green, which will then create a mask, okay? So we're going to, just going to stop the video. And we need to isolate this value of green. It's going to be a challenge because there's different values of green because of the buckling. We get highlights and we get some shadows. So we'll do the best we can. So let's go to select our layer. Oops. All right, let's pull this into our timeline. So we'll drag that. It doesn't matter where it goes right now. We're gonna have to we have to change it afterwards. Actually, we probably should put it at the top so we can see it. So I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. It does matter, but there we go. So it's in our timeline, selected. Then we want to go into effect. Okay, we want to go down to keying. Okay, we're keying. Chroma keying this this screen, and actually before we do that, this thing is larger than I thought it was. So let's make this smaller. We'll do this first, just because we have to see the full screen, so we're not seeing the full screen. So let's click on it in our layers. Just hit S, and we'll just doesn't matter what value we use. It can be smaller than everything. It doesn't matter. Might be ideal actually just to make it a little bit smaller so we can see everything. But you just need to get it on screen so that we can see it and work with it. Okay. Once that's resized, now we'll just click on the screen, go to Effect, go down to Keying, and we're going to go down to this controller called Keylight 1.2. And it's really simple. You're basically saying, what do you want to create the mask out of? Well, I want to create it out of a value. I want a color at a specific value. So I'm going to go to the color picker. It's not called the color picker, but it's identical to the color picker. And where it says screen color, and that's going to be choosing the color of the screen we're wanting to key out. Click on that. Go to the eyedropper. Now, before you start getting crazy and clicking on stuff, all I want you to do is take the eyedropper and start moving it around the green. Don't click on anything. Just move the cursor around with the eyedropper, and you'll notice what's happening. Okay, so it's selecting value, and it's that's kind of difficult to see. I'm going to cancel it. That's doing it on yours, then let's do this. And that's just because we have these other layers on, so I'm just going to turn those off. Because sometimes that can be difficult if we're looking at other images. It's nice to see how it's going to key against it, but it can be distracting. So I'm just going to turn all of those layers off with the exception of my green screen video. And then I'll go back over here. Click on the eyedropper. Now the reason I go into the color picker, or the screen colors it's called, rather than just take the eyedropper here, which you can do, it's the same effect, it's the same tool rather, It's because we do need to modify sometimes where we've selected. So you can see, depending on where you go, there's certain degrees of noise that are, so there's a good spot there. It's bad keying, we don't want that. But look at all the noise. Look at all this clustered pixelation that happens. And again, that's because it's a really poorly done green screen. So if I have to take that into account. So I need to sort of probably go sort of in the shadow areas and wherever there's a flat value of green, and that's probably where I'm gonna want to sample from, so that I can incorporate as much of the value from this image as the background as possible. Okay, so once you have a spot that you like, it doesn't really matter because we're gonna modify anyway. Just click. And then we can change it, right? So if it's not ideal, which mine isn't, you can see there's a lot of tonal value in there. I can always go in and move this around. So if I go way over here to the extreme, I'm gonna start what's called clipping. I'm starting to cut into my object. Now, why is it clipping in on the sort of the exterior of the arm and not as much on the inside? There is some clipping happening here, but you can see it's very extreme along the edges. Now, the reason that's happening is because what it's doing is it's taking any value of green and saying, okay, you want to essentially create a mask out of that, so it's transparent. You're going to have a transparency there. The edges of this arm are going to be, there's going to be a little bit more green on the edges of the arm than there would be the back, because the edge of the arm is interacting with the green screen. And so you get that color cast that happens when you are standing. If we went to the blue screen here, the room looks blue because everything's now being washed in that blue value. So that's why it's getting clipped away, is because there is enough significant amount of green there that it's also getting clipped out. So we don't want that. That's too extreme, but we don't want to go too far to the right because we don't have a pure enough value of green. Because of this green screen, we're going to get all this tonal value, which we don't want, right? So you got to try to find something that's not going to clip our image, but will create a solid green screen channel out of it. So I'm going to say that's probably pretty good for me. So I'm going to say okay to that. And I might save because After Effects seems to be going a little bit slow for me. Okay, that looks pretty good. Nice and clean in terms of an edge against the arm, although it looks like it's a little soft on the edge, so maybe there's some, like a little bit of clipping still. You can go into these effects and just influence how the green screen is being applied and how it works. I'm not going to get into all these values. There's a ton there. There's a lot of power there. You can also animate all of this, amazingly enough. Everything in After Effects you can animate pretty much, which is cool, but probably unnecessary for a lot of this stuff. And you can sort of just play around with some of those features, but you probably don't need to touch them at all, okay? If you keyed it properly, it's probably good enough based on what you have. Okay, so we have that. So what we want to do now is, let me go to 50% so you can see. What we want to do now is we need to get rid of that masking tape as best we can. And we got a wall over here. So for whatever reason, I didn't put enough green screen up, or I should have moved my camera a little bit more to the left to get rid of that wall. So we need to get rid of that, right? Because that didn't get incorporated as part of our green screen process. So I'm just going to advance forward to the point where she reaches out and touches the screen. That's the furthest most point of the video. And I'm going to double click to go inside the movie. And I want to create a mask out of this. Okay, so I'm going to go click on my pen tool. And it doesn't need to be a tight mask because we're already using the green screen fairly effectively. You just need to incorporate the arm, leave a little bit of room for some flexibility because we have to animate the mask. Looks like this is probably her knees, so I didn't do a very good job of that. that mask chops everything else away. Now I realize it's kind of like, well, why are we doing a green screen if we're just gonna use a mask? Well, I didn't do a good green screen, that's why. So now I have to do this extra step. So yes, I can understand you being angry with me for having to do that. But it is a good lesson. So now it's cut out, and we still have the green screen effect, which will get rid of the rest of that green. So the mask is very, very loose. We don't have to get too tight with it, too specific with it. We're not doing a frame-by-frame animation. So it's not really a complex process, despite the fact that we are using a mask, very animated mask. Okay, the reason we want to start there is because that's where we want to start our keyframe process. So I've already gone in, drawn my mask, I've completed the loop. I want to open up my masks, or my mask layer, and I want to click on the stopwatch for mask path to establish those as a keyframe element. Then I'm going to just move forward. Doesn't matter if you go forward or backwards, we've got to do it all anyway. But I'm just going to move forward in the timeline. And then when it starts to move, when the video starts to move, or the arm in the video, then let's go in and click on those anchor points that need to move to incorporate that movement of the arm. Okay, just move wherever you need to. Just as it goes forward, then you just stop and you just move it. You don't need to insert another keyframe. Because we're changing the mask path, it will automatically plug in the keyframe for you. Maybe I got the timing of the video a little wrong, so it looks like it might go a little bit longer than 4 seconds. So I'm going to go back into composition settings, just to increase the duration. I'll just put it in, probably no more than 5 seconds, so I'll put it in 5 seconds. Just see if that helps. Maybe it was enough. Actually, probably, well, just over, it looks like it's just over 4. Anyway, I made it 5 seconds. We'll change that once we're done this. It might just be over a little bit over 4 seconds. Yeah, so based on our time code, it is 4 seconds, it's 5 frames though. That's what it is, 4 seconds and 5 frames. I'm just gonna change that again. Back to 4, and then 0, 5, 4, oops, 0, 5 for our frames. There we go. And then that just means we're gonna have to extend the ends of just these to make sure it goes to the end. Alright, now I'm gonna go to where I started the keyframing process with her hand extended out, and now I'm gonna work in the opposite direction. So as the arm goes up, leads into that, I've gotta now keyframe that process. Okay, so once you have that done, and you've organized it, so the seats are first, because they gotta cover the video, the green screen, then the green screen, and then your Tesla interior, and then the snow. Then it's just a matter of, okay, well, move things around so that it looks like she's actually interacting with the screen. So you'll need to get that interior and just physically move it to where you think it needs to go. Just sort of scrub through the movie to get a sense of, so it's not too bad. She does go to the end of that visual, which is maybe, well, that's maybe where it actually would cut off, is the extent of that roof. Who knows? I've never used it, so I don't know, but I'm gonna assume that that's decent, okay? In relation to that. The console could be made a little bit smaller, so you could click on the Photoshop file, hit S, and just drag the value in a little bit, just so you get a little bit of that, more of that snow from the window. If that's important to you. Now, some of you might be seeing with your green screen, I'm gonna go back into it. Actually, I'll go back out here. Some of you might be seeing the same thing where it looks a bit transparent. The arm, you can see through the arm. That's never good. So this is the ghost driving the car. We're gonna make that more solid. So double click on your green screen. And we've got to do an adjustment layer on this anyway, because we need to change the color too, right? So just go to the green screen in your timeline. We're going to create a composition out of this as well. So we're going to pre-compose this as well. So click on your green screen as it sits in your movie, and go up to Layer. And we're going to go to Pre-compose. Just one layer, and just let's call this green screen movie. It's the main green screen thing. Okay, so there it is there. Doesn't change anything, it's now just a composition versus just a layer. But let's double click on green screen and take us inside. And we want to do the same thing, right? We want to put an adjustment layer on. So go Layer, New, Adjustment Layer. And then once that's in there, let's go Effect. We'll use the same thing. If you want to use something different, that's fine. I'm just going to keep using the same effect just because, you know, we've used it, so we're familiar with it. So go into Curves, and then just adjust. Some of those same values that we're using inside the car. Okay, now when we're in curves, what I want you to do is click on it. We've got an additional thing that is part of this curves function. So before we've been using the parent channel, which is RGB, controls all three of your channels, red, green, and blue. You have individual control over your red, green, and blue channels, but we also have an alpha channel. So it's the alpha that we're gonna need to affect so that we don't have that ghost effect with our arm. Right now, the green screen is gone, but any value of green that has washed across our image or anything that naturally exists within inside of this portion of the video, that's what's being influenced. So it's also somewhat translucent based on the fact that it has some of those green properties. So if we go to the alpha channel, which is this dotted line, we can pull it out and we can pull it up to change the overall density of that alpha channel. I would just do a bow, so you want sort of to bow down to incorporate more of those values. Oops, sorry, the wrong way. Now it is a ghost. Go back in, sorry, I pulled it the wrong way. So we actually want to go this way because we want to increase the amount that we're applying to the key. Oh, we've gone too far here. Let's try that. do a reset. It didn't seem to take it for some reason. Let me just do it first before I do any of my other channels. That seemed to take it that time. I don't know what was going on there. Anyway, let's go pretty extreme. Alright, now when I start applying my channels, hopefully it's. There we go. I think you want to do the alpha channel first, and then do your other channels after. Because your alpha channel is going to influence each one of those channels, so you can sort of do them incrementally after the fact, just so you know you're not turning into a ghost. Oh, see, there we go. Turning into a ghost. I think it's because I'm putting that green channel in. So you gotta be careful with the green channel, obviously, because we're using a green screen. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull my red channel just down. It's a little back and forth, and hopefully you get it. Oh, shoot. Yeah, I'm not gonna do my color changes here. I'm just gonna do my alpha change. And I'll just put on another curves on top, or another adjustment layer with curves on top of it, and do my color change that way. I think that might work better. That looks better as it looks more dense. Anyway, and then the other thing that I would do, what I'd recommend doing once we're inside the green screen, is take the original movie, the original video, the MOV, and duplicate it. So as soon as you duplicate it, you're now putting the same information on top. So if something were at 50% opacity, you put another one on top, now you're gonna get a fully opaque object, or whatever the values are. Not necessarily, in that case you would, but if it were 20 or 30, then you're just gonna increase by 20 or 30. So go to the green screen and hit Command D, and that duplicates it. Now you do have to be careful, because depending on how you've done your green screen, you can get sort of a halo effect that goes around your arm. Mine's not too bad, you can see it just there. There's a little bit of that halo effect, but it is a little bit more dense than before. And again, you can duplicate it the second time. Dense. Turn this off for a second. Okay, and then you can always just change the opacity. So if you're starting to get this sort of weird halo that can happen around your arm, around the subject, based on the green screen selection that you've done, you can always just hit T for any one of the duplicated layers. T just gives you your opacity, and then you can just adjust your opacity. So you can pull it down a bit, and that will mitigate that effect that's happening with the light going around your arm. Okay. So it takes a little bit of finessing. Like I say, if I green screen, what I might do is throw on now another adjustment layer. Go to this adjustment layer. I might throw on another effect. Maybe I'll choose a different color method. So I could go, instead of using curves, that has the alpha channel in it, I could go to color balance. You could use levels. I think I'll stay away from levels. Let's go to hue and saturation, try it there. So choose your value for. ghosting. I think it's that darn alpha channel. I'll get rid of that. This, because I'm moving out, the alpha channel's gone. Against. Yeah, so just kind of fiddling around with it, trying a few different options. That alpha channel is not going to help me much. Just I think the keying color is just going to constantly be getting in the way. But once I sort of work with the curves a little bit, try to match up what I've got going in the scene, then I should have it. It's pretty ghosty, so I've got to go fix that. But I gotta clean up the color. Anyway, I'll do that later. Let's get the last thing that we need to do, which is actually moving the visual that's on the screen. So she clicks, there's two functions to it, or there's two ways of doing it, I guess. Maybe there's more than two, but from what I can gather, there's two ways of opening this roof above us, is to click on screen and physically move the roof on the car visual, or grab the slider and slide it down that way. Now, when I move this, the slider should move with it, or if I move this, then that visual on there should move with it. And so we'll probably get to that next week, where we can move those along the same path. But let's just get the visual in there for now. Okay, so let's just lock everything so we don't accidentally ruin anything. We'll do this effect, or this next step, right in the main movie, but then I might be inclined to cut it out of this movie and plug it into the composition with the hand, just because it's part of that same sequence. But for right now, let's just build it right here. So we need to create this visual. So we'll do that with a solid again. So let's go layer, new, solid, and we'll just call this, we can call it moon roof if you want. You want to call it, moon roof. I'm going to make the same color, just continuing on with that. I can adjust that at a later time, but that sort of color is working. Does this. Let's just take our rectangle tool, I'm just going to guess, it's probably right about here. No, it's pretty good guess. And draw in a rectangle. Okay? And then just move that rectangle into place. That is automatically going to be selected in your timeline. So just hit T to give us our option to control our opacity. And I'm just going to drop the opacity on that shape. Let me zoom in so you probably can't see it all that well there. And that just allows me to see through it, so I can actually see and reconfigure the design of this. So let's click away, click on the corner, and just place the corner. In fact, if I want to hide this, so I can actually see it, I'm just going to hide that hand layer. Drag it all into place. The reason we're changing the configuration of this is because this is probably not perfectly vertical. It's on an angle the whole bit, so we want to tailor it to how it actually looks on screen, because the camera's probably not fixed perfectly at a 90-degree angle. We need to create this arc. So go up to the pen tool, go to the add vertex tool, click in the center and drag so that we get the handles. Hold down shift, just constrains it. Click V, drag it into place, pull our handles out to sort of contour with that line. And then we've got it. Now, I gotta turn this back on so you can see that finger. Once the finger touches, very deliberate, there, right there. Once it touches, that is gonna trigger this visual. So I'm gonna clip this whole thing to that point. I don't need this to exist until that finger touches the screen. So hits, and then it's going to start moving in a moment. So it doesn't move yet. We want to wait till the finger starts to move, which happens, I would say, what is that? Yeah, 2 seconds, 8 frames. So we'll toggle open our, or you can just hit P for position for the moonroof and just click on our stopwatch to put in a keyframe at that 2 second and 8 frames spot, because that's when it's actually going to start moving. And then just follow that finger down, we'll scrub through, and it gets released there. And that's when you're going to put in your second keyframe, and then just take your value, just take your slider, the right hand side numbers of our X and Y, and just drag it down to, it would probably go there, I would think, but if you want to follow the finger, you can take it down there. It's more about pacing at this point. You want to make sure that it looks natural as it moves. That's pretty good. And then it would disappear again. So we're going to just take the end of the clip and drag it just 1 frame past the keyframe. So it plays, and then once the finger lifts off, that visual moves away as well. Active, goes down. Obviously it's sitting on top of the finger right now. I gotta move it in terms of its layer order, but like I said, I might cut it out of this and put it in my movie anyhow. Okay. So I need to go in, I'll fix up that arm. I just need to get the colors right and then duplicate that layer so it's dense and you don't see through it, because we're seeing partly through it. And that's just because there's some green in this object, and when you keyed it out, it grabs some of those values of green, and so we're seeing through that arm. Okay, so what we'll do next week is just finish up that sequence. For homework, just clean it up. Just get it so it looks like it all belongs in the same scene. Okay, so mine's looking pretty good. My arm needs work. It's transparent, so that's not good. I need to fix that. And the color just needs to suit the scene a little bit more. Not that it needs to be as green, because she's not necessarily, her clothing doesn't need to match necessarily the environment, but probably have some of that cast to it, color cast. And then once that's done, we'll do a transition from this. We'll take our Tesla animated logo, we'll bring it in as a composition, and then we'll transition from this scene to our animated logo, and that will finish off our Tesla thing. Okay. All right, that's it.
This is a homework?
All you need to do for homework is just have it ready for next week, where you want it. If it's all purple, then yours is going to be purple. That's fine. But just so that you're happy with how it looks, we've got everything in place. Everything is sequenced. Everything's timed. All you need to do now, and all I need to do with this, and I'll do this for next week, I need to get in and fix that arm. It's not right, obviously, as we can see. So I'll get that fixed up, and then we'll be ready to go with our lesson next week. If for whatever reason you don't get it where you want it, I'll have this as a finished file and just supply it to you next week if you want to use my file.
Yeah, you can upload this to FOL.
Yeah, I'll put it to FOL for next week, because as you can plainly see, what's that? A Cinemagraph is a homework assignment. This isn't homework in the sense that you need to do anything other than if you want to just get it looking right and work with it a little bit. Your actual homework is the Cinemagraph, and that's due week 12. And I just want a Cinemagraph of something. Whether you do it in Illustrator, Photoshop, using a timeline, Premiere, how we did ours, or After Effects, or whatever you want to use, I just want a Cinemagraph. Yeah? All right, we're done a little bit early, but I'm getting the sense that you guys were done about an hour ago. So I'm not going to go any further. And this is where we left off with my other section. So I'm going to start next week's class with both sections at the same spot, which I like to do. So we are done a little bit sooner. I don't hear any grumbling. I don't hear anybody in tears over the fact that we're done. I can do more. I can always do more. But if you're fine, we'll just we'll end it there, and we'll pick it up next week. All right. Enjoy St. Patrick's Day. I don't know if anybody's doing anything. I think they're doing something down here. So. Hey. Oh, the Tesla animated logo.